tonight? Are you running it straight, or what are you doing? You're doing separate ones? Okay, then I'll come back to this one. Well, then, I have it right now, it's 2, so if you keep the 2, that's good. I stay so busy now.
Okay, we'll continue. I'm going to open the floor for a motion to come out of the executive session. All right, any questions? All right, all in favor of coming out of executive session? Okay, unanimous at 6:15. Out of executive session. And I guess we would need to adjourn that call meeting. So is there a motion to adjourn the call meeting?
I'd like to move to adjourn the call meeting, but I'd also like to look at our round times for
Okay. All right, so there's a motion to adjourn the call meeting. Is there a second? Okay, any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor of adjourning our call meeting? You would show by raising of your hand. Okay. All right, so we are going to call our work session to order at 6:17 p.m. Okay, Dr. Thomas, if you would do a roll call for us.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Greg Davis.
Here.
Dr. Dyson.
Here.
Mr. Worthy.
Present.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Dr. Ken.
Here.
Dr. Yeager.
Here.
Dr. Knox.
Here.
Dr. Maddox. Here.
Thank you. Okay, going to open the floor to amend and/or adopt the agenda. Mr. Davis.
I move that we go into executive session following this meeting for the purposes that you want to tell us.
Okay.
You got the script.
Okay, I do have the script. So Mr. Davis has made a motion to enter back into executive session to discuss or deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent. Is there a second for that motion? Any questions or discussion regarding that executive session? Okay, all in favor of going into executive session? Would show by raising of your hands. Okay, so we have an executive session added as that very last item. Okay, so I'm going to open the floor for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So,
Okay, is there a second? Any concerns or questions, discussion? All right, all in favor of accepting the agenda as amended, if you would show by raising your hand. Okay. Okay, so we are going to start with our informational items. And the very first one is the Early Head Start Policy Council and that report that was provided. Are there any additional comments or questions about the report?
I did read the, where's Karen? As always, I did read the report. I can't remember my question, but I know how to email you. Thank you. Thank you.
As a representative from the board to the policy committee, I just wanted to state that I think that the parents involved in the Head Start, really Head Start Policy Council are just fabulous. So I wanted to just put that out there.
I'll echo that sentiment. That is one of our best run programs that I've seen because it's one that I've spent a significant amount of time in. And so the preparation for leadership and taking on this leadership role in our community is really excellent. So I highly recommend that if you have parents that haven't engaged yet, it's an awesome opportunity to really get into some governance training with free of charge. Not having to go to school.
Any other questions about the report? Okay. We'll move on to our November SWOS report that was provided for us. All right. Assuming that means Okay.
I didn't think we had anything.
Okay, we'll move forward with the Athens Community Career Academy. I didn't notice anything underlined, so I don't, okay. So I don't know if that's more just with the transition and things.
The transition with Mr. Harris, and we currently have an interim in that role. But if we have, I will speak to Mr. Harris tomorrow morning, and if there's information, we can get that sent to you.
So I do want us to put on our radar for the full board. I am a little, I guess I just didn't understand why the Career Academy Board chose to set up an account with the foundation, Athens Area Foundation, to receive funds for the expansion of the Career Academy. I think the board needs to have a discussion about that activity and how that actually fits in with our oversight of a program in our school, not a separate school, but the funds being held someplace else. And I think from our message in that report that was given to us, it was because it was concerned that the board, the school district, would use the funds for something other than what it was intended. That is not a good enough reason to establish a separate account with a nonprofit to hold funds for the expansion of the Career Academy,
I
in
feel
my
like,
opinion.
I feel like at some point we didn't begin this conversation, but I know we had some questions that you had asked that Dr. Thomas, okay, that was the answer. I see.
Response that I received to current board president.
Okay. And so what I hear you saying is that you
I
feel
think the
that we
board
need.
needs to have a conversation about that. I did go to GSBA again this year for pre-conference, and I did attend the legal section. And I think that as a district, we need to really be careful with funds coming to us and being directed on our behalf and the liability that we incur as a result of that. And there are other fund issues like that with Title IX that we're going to have to take a look at in 2020.
And would that be something, like, don't we have a joint meeting? Like, I know we have one in the fall, we have one this
We
spring.
have to have an internal meeting with ourselves to understand if we're going to have programs that are district-run supported programs financed by the district, and then the funds were raised by a board. Can that board direct those funds to another entity to hold those funds, as opposed to those funds being deposited in the district? The Head Start is a perfect example, and we're in partnership with them, their program too. And so their funds come to the district, and the district manages those funds. And I don't think we've taken money from Head Start ever.
And so there's a conversation that needs to happen among the board, but it also sounds like there were some questions for the Career Academy as before as well.
I mean, we know our position first before.
Just as somebody who is relatively new to this, I think what I would like is a better understanding of the relationship between the Career Academy and the district and what, I mean, they have their own board, we have our own board. I know that we are obviously there in this building, so I've always had a little bit of trouble figuring out exactly what that structure is.
So we had the presentation, and we were made very clear to us that they're a program. They are not a separate charter. They are a program. They don't have a charter to run the Career Academy. But that's, again, just like Head Start and early Head Start. And so the alarm went off when I saw that $30,000, $30,000, something on my mind, it's kind of short. $30,000 for the manufacturing
Lab, yes.
lab to be built here, but that money's not going to come to the district. It's going to come from another agency, and I'm not sure why that's happening.
Yeah, I do see one difference between them and early learning, and that is that they do have a board, early learning, that's correct. Well, that's actually a policy committee.
It was a board.
But I guess a larger question too, aside from, I mean, I think you're asking a good question, but I also would like to get the rationale, because I haven't really heard. So it's not not just meeting, I mean, I think clarifying among ourselves is correct, but I think,
So we'll definitely have to have a conversation as well, but I think
Yeah.
first we need to better understand it. And so not to go down that hole, but there are 2 or 3 other relationships where we probably need to explore.
Need a favor with that. Well, I will first wait for Dr. Lynn to set the time for that discussion, or work later to the time for that discussion with our board, and then we can request another joint board basis.
And so I would imagine that would, perhaps even at one of our work sessions will be an ideal time to have that conversation amongst ourselves.
Maybe we need to talk through that, right?
All right, our parent advisory board, don't remember seeing anything there either.
They have not met since we met the last time. We have a meeting, actually Monday, May 13th, at 6 o'clock. So I will be attending.
All right, we'll move forward. Thank you for that update. We'll move forward with the president's report. So a couple of things I wanted to mention. Well, let's see. There are some action things that we have to do within some announcements. I'll start looking at the announcements. The first one I wanted to start with is the deadline to apply for District 2C. I think it's tomorrow. Correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah. So I just wanted to make the public aware of that those application materials are due to the district for District 2 by tomorrow. And the board will make that decision after considering all of the information at next week's meeting. The second thing I wanted to mention was that the dates of the advanced ed cognitive visit, to confirm that those are January the 26th, 27th, and 28th. And just wanted to also give an update, and maybe I'll have a more thorough update after tomorrow, but I'm still in the process of speaking with GSBA. I think a lot of people have been afraid, so we're hoping to get back into the swing of things. We have a call scheduled for tomorrow morning, and we'll talk a little bit more about our plan for professional development semester. Okay, the action items that we need to get taken care of tonight are the nomination of board officers as well as board committee selections. I think I don't think it's listed here. We'll start with the nomination of officers. And then we'll transition to the board committee selections. I do have a couple of announcements, or want to preface our board committee selections with some information. But at your seat, you should have received a ballot for the nomination of officers. And so as I mentioned in the email, originally I had these a little bit confused and thought that we did both of them next week. But in fact, we do the nominations tonight and the voting next week. And so this is our form. It is standard from our policy, and so we basically need to nominate a person for president as well as vice president. And so if you would go ahead and fill that out. Actually, you're right. That's right. So I'm sorry. I think I may have confused this. One should be for the vice president, and one should be for the president. Yeah, so it is actually two.
Yeah.
Mr. Pruitt, can we give these to you?
Policy says either you or your designee.
Will you be my designee?
So it also says, you're supposed to announce the nominees tonight.
Okay, so, you know, I will give you a few minutes to.
Okay.
Okay.
There's over 2 nominations for vice president, Dr. Mattis and Dr. Jonathan, and 2 candidates nominated for president, Ms. Davis and Dr.
Okay, so you said for, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have our nominations. We'll move forward with our board committee selections. So 2 things I wanted to mention about the board committee selections. One is, it just sort of been talking with Dr. Thomas and, who else? How was it, Ms. Palmer, yeah, Ms. Palmer. We sort of talked about what would make it a little bit easier. And so one of the things that we thought would be helpful would be for each person to just give a snapshot, an overview of their committee. By snapshot, I mean maybe 1 to 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes. And then secondly, one of the things that, a conversation that I had with Mr. Davis that I thought was definitely worth sharing was I know that last year when we selected committees, there were a couple of people, or at least one, that did not have an opportunity, because last year it was really about whoever could make it to the board first. And so we all rushed the board. And so one of the ideas brought forth was that as we sign up for the committees, that we basically sign up for one committee at a time, and we can go in any order, we can start there, and that way, everyone gets at least one of their first choices. I also noticed that you all had put, 8 lines, and that just gives us, if there are 4 or 5 people, gives us an opportunity to really sort of talk through, and make a decision, and try to at least have some committees that we enjoy all of them. but at least, where we can have, some of our, first choices and things like that.
Does policy say 4 members on the committee?
It's 4 members on every committee, because you can't have 5. If you have 5, you've already voted it in before it comes to the full board.
And so the only one, and it's not really a committee, but is that the GSBA person, which was me, but before that, I think it was the government relations people.
Yeah, I think, I mean, some positions, we only have one, like on the parent, the early Head Start Policy Committee, Envision Athens.
We didn't list those, Mr. Davis, so we only put up the ones that are more of our internal committees, policy, finance, property, government relations. Those are the only ones, and then the ones where you all have representation, we thought that you all could just easily decide which ones, so things like a Vision Athens, literacy, early Head Start. Excuse me, we didn't put those up, but these seem to be the working committees of the board itself. And also, Dr. Gann, keep in mind, we have one board member that we need to save space.
Can I say something? Because and I know it's too late to do it now, but I do think that Kara made a very interesting, it's one of those things that, once in a while somebody says something and you say, wow. Yeah, only once in a while. But it says something that it was totally outside the box, and it really seems to make sense to me. It's one of those things, and that is that maybe we need to have a discussion before this time next year on a committee structure that more represents what are for kids. A committee around academics, which could involve policy, that involves that deals directly with academics. It could be the superintendent evaluation could be kind of broken up a little bit, where one committee focuses on academics. Same thing with the social emotional piece. And so, to me, it's a very intriguing idea if we divide up ourselves along the lines of what's happening kind of like out there with the students. So your idea was wonderful, and I really would like to see a lot more discussion about that, because these seem very bureaucratic committees.
And I'm sorry, I do think that it's too late to do that kind of thing this year, but my suggestion originally was just to have additional committees, one being, and I know that people don't want to do too much committee work, but a committee that was focused on academic achievement and a committee that was focused more on the social, emotional, or behavior discipline. And my thought behind that was that we have a lot of data, which is great, and we'd all like to get into that data and really understand the data, but there's so much that it's really difficult for us to feel like we have a handle on any one piece of it. So I thought if we had 2 different committees, an academic part and a social emotional behavior part, that the people on those committees could really take that and get more involved in that and then share that out with the rest of the board. And I don't think I think we can still do that. I don't know if we need to decide that right now. I don't think it's something that we need to meet monthly, but maybe like, okay, these 5 people are going to focus on, or I guess it can only be 4. Right? but these 4 people are going to focus on this and take some time and really get into that and talk to the people who are involved in that, the staff members who are involved in that, and then be able to share that with the rest of the board so we don't all have to do everything.
I want to speak to that. Yes, I read your email, and when I first read it, I sort of frowned, and then when I read it further, and you said, well, maybe meet quarterly. I support that, because monthly, we spread it ourselves too thin.
Quarterly is a good time based on when many of our data points come in. So maybe like 3 times a year, we could do it at the end of assessment periods and provide updated data.
When I read, thank you, I thought, well, wow, that's great. We don't even need to do anything because we have a structure where the president can appoint that committee. And so there is no reason for the board to take action on that. Then I started thinking deeper and further into that. And, you know, I like getting my fingers in the data too, but I try not to get so deep into it like you, like anything as interesting as you are. So I'm a level way a little above that. But I wanted to make sure that we don't slide ourselves into beyond governance. And so that's my concern. When we start appointing committees to take deeper dives into things that we've hired an administrator to do, then I think we run the risk of kind of getting into that. Now, again, if there's more information that we need from those committees in order to do our work, then I think that's reasonable. The other thing that jumped out at me when I saw your recommendation was we have yet to finish the conversation about what is our relationship with our local school governance teams. And so while it would be good to have that, again, at the governance level, a view of that data, again, we want to be able to trust the administrators that we've hired with that expertise to provide that information to us. But where it becomes meaningful to me is when we can see our local school governance teams taking that data and looking at their individual schools and seeing where those changes can happen, because they are the ones that can make those changes, and certainly not us. And so again, we want to put the decisions as close to the people that are implementing them as they possibly can. That was my take.
I would agree. I think, you know, there certainly is a role for the LSGTs. I think this can be helpful, particularly as it helps us interpret policy of some, you know, when we talk about our, you know, that's a large part of, you know, our role, and understanding like our behavior policies and discipline policies and things like that. And so I definitely support the idea, you know, as a board member, I want to be as informed as possible, because I may not be at the LSGT meetings, and I may not be at the, you know, principals' coffee meetings and things like that. It helps when I can see the data, especially before evaluation time. You know, being able to sort of pick apart and understand what our questions are and things like that. And so it's definitely something I want to keep on all of our radars. And as you shared with Davis, it is something that will be within the purview of whoever is nominated for president, to sort of have that working committee to be able to take that, you know, to delve into the data.
And I just want to emphasize that if it's operational data, then that's totally below the line. And then when we're talking about looking at the impact that legislation has on us, the impact that our strategic plan has in terms of how have we implemented that strategic plan, I think those committees would be great to have direct that work effort. But I really do want us to try to keep that line of thinking between us and operations.
Well, and hopefully we'll continue to build the capacity that, and communication that, you know, Dr. Thomas can let us know, you know, if any of our committees, I think that potential is there. Even with, you know, with policy, with evaluation, there's always that risk. And hopefully as we, you know, build better processes and, you know, better communication, you know, that Dr. Thomas will let us know that, you know, this is, you know, this is a little bit, this is our area and this is yours. But I certainly think knowing and having information, we need that in order to make informed decisions about whether it's budgeting or policy or evaluation when that time comes. Okay, so let's go ahead and sign up for committees. Ms. Palmer and Dr. Thomas they've listed all of the ones, and I'm going to encourage us or suggest that we start and we just work our way. I'm sorry? Yeah, each do one, and then once we get to Dr. Maddox, Mr. Davis, you'll start over and what have you. So you can go ahead and start. So that's probably.
I want to make a suggestion.
Sure.
For the sake of time, why can't we do that just before we go into executive session? It's 8 of us, and the way we're going to do it now, it's going to be time consuming. You got to go back and executive session. Just a suggestion, folks.
Yeah.
Not an argument.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, because we already have it here, I think, you know, in this particular order, it may be better that we try to stick with it, but I just remembered that we did not give people their minute to talk about their overview. So let's do that, and please stick with the minute. Anything else we can read about the policy? And when you go up, in considering what you've shared, Mr. Worthy, when we go up to decide on policy, we can make that a little bit quicker because we all were aware that this night was coming. So, I guess before you sign up, we'll talk about policy. So committees, if you can give us a brief overview of the government, 1 minute, government relations.
Okay, the Government Relations Committee deals with impacting or working to impact our legislative delegation at the state capitol. We have also had some involvement with federal policy, but not very limited. This does give me the opportunity to remind all board members that on February the 10th, under the auspices of the Government Relations Committee, we are going to have a joint county commission, school board meeting. And so this is our second one, and under the guidance of Dr. Thomas, Lawrence Harris is involved in that, and so we will basically bring the boards together and the staffs together, relevant staffs, and hopefully have a very productive session. And so that's another piece of what we did. Last December, we met with our legislative delegation, and we will meet with them after the...
I hear people say that your minute is up. Okay, who has a committee coming this way? Mr. Worthy?
Finance Committee?
Yes.
Finance and Pride. Very brief, finance almost explains itself. That's one of our roles as a board member. We're stewards of the budget. And we have a finance meeting once per month. Chief Financial Officer provide information, also your presentation to the board. And with the private committee, since it's such a short script, I'm going to read it. The private committee shall evaluate and determine the condition of all buildings and also ground of Clarke County School District. And the committee shall review with the superintendent's recommendation on following. Section now to a place to deal with situations. That's very brief.
Okay. Thank you.
Mine is superintendent.
Okay.
The purpose of the superintendent evaluation committee is to assist the board with the superintendent evaluation process. The functions of the committee are set forth in board policy CE9.
Okay. And policy.
The policy committee takes on another big chunk of the responsibility of the board, that is for making policy, evaluating policy, reviewing policies. And the job there is multi-step because it goes through policy committee, but then there's another part to it where it is approved, it goes out to public review and then comes back. And so that's what we do on the policy committee. I will not be chairing it next year, so there's an opportunity for somebody to step up and chair the policy committee this next year.
Okay. All right, thank you. That was very good. Dr. Yeager, you want to bring forth your
I was
suggestion?
just going to make an efficiency suggestion. If everyone is okay with just saying it aloud, maybe Lisa could write our names on the pieces of paper as we say it aloud rather than us all marching up the steps 4 or 5 times.
Ready?
Is there a preference?
Finance Committee.
No, we have to go in order. Well, is there a preference? Is it okay if Ms. Palmer? Okay. I'm sorry.
Well, they're going by personal, like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
So Greg wants to say, I want to be on whatever.
I mean, is everyone okay doing this with me, or do people want to physically get up and? Okay, well, don't hear any.
Policy, Davis, Greg, Linda, yes.
Dykeman, I will say superintendent evaluation.
Okay, I said earlier, finance committee, and I would like to remain as chair of that committee. I love talking about money.
Superintendent's evaluation.
Right. I'll go back to property. This, again. Wait, what did I say? Did I say policy or property? No, not property, I'm sorry, policy. Sorry. That's different. I was reading property, but policy.
Jaeger would like to be on policy also.
This is Knox, superintendent evaluation.
Superintendent evaluation, I would like to be the chair.
All right, and actually, instead of starting that way, let's start this way, this time, and that way it'll give us a, different people will get first choice, and then we'll come here. Okay, Dr. Banks.
Policy,
Finance,
Okay. Property. Property? I'm leaving finance, Mr. Williams.
Linda Davis, property.
Recommend Charles Worthy, property, and I would like to remain the chairperson of that.
Do we kind of vote by committee, is that?
It's I think according to our policy, it's more of a consensus, once the committee is established.
Dykeman, finance.
Davis, property, Greg?
There's 4 on there already.
But we can,
Okay, oh, I see, never mind, sorry.
well, it should be 4, but we have a few, and then we may have to do some discussion once Lisa, I'm sorry, Ms. Palmer reads that to us. So,
Did she get Mr. Davis?
okay.
There's no one on government relations, no pressure.
Okay.
I wouldn't get that either.
So now we started at this end. Dr. Dykeman, let's start with you this time, and then we'll just sort of.
There's one position on finance, well, there's all left. Yeah, so we're gonna argue, but there's nobody on government.
We probably should at least do 1 or 2 more rounds and just see where we, have Ms. Palmer read to us where we are. So,
Government relations.
You chairing that?
No. You are.
Ms. Davis?
Okay, I'll take finance.
So can I take, so last year I had had 2 committees, and then the GSBA, what have you. Okay, can I do that? I know GSBA is not up there, or would it be best if I just put myself back on the committee? Committee? Okay, so just like pick a committee, okay. I will do, I'll say finance. I know that's cool, but
I don't think government relations.
so that was Dr. Yeager, government relations, and Gant finance. Dr. Knox?
Government relations.
Okay, and Dr. Maddox? I was only on 2 last year and then did the GSBA. Okay. All right. So, well then, and then Greg, let's end at least this round because we started with Dr. Dykeman, so.
Government relations.
Okay, so there's at least 4 in every. So Ms. Palmer, can you read us or I mean, we could just go get up and look. Yes. Oh, okay, that's right. So that person will need to be, so since most people are turned around a little bit, let's take maybe 2 minutes for us to look at it. And then if we need to make any like adjustments, we can do that now, or maybe we can even do it over email or something if there's. But anyway, take 2 minutes and take a look at the committee, and if you're convicted that something is terribly wrong and you need to be on a different committee, we can sort of hash that out. Those individual committees. All right, so moving forward, we have the committees determined with all of us, and we've assigned a new person to some committees, so that's good. Let's move forward with the superintendent's report, Dr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me, I'm making my part as brief as possible. I did want to introduce Mr. Chris Ryder. He is our new Chief Financial Officer, and he just began with us this week. And we also want to publicly thank Byron Schuneman, who served as our interim Chief Finance Officer while we were searching for someone. So we're excited to have Chris with us, and he will have a lot of opportunities to showcase his skills coming up, especially with budget season. So we're glad to have you. Thank you. Want to provide an update on office space. We are at capacity, and as you heard Ms. Davis mention the funds that have been donated for the construction of the manufacturing lab, and that will actually take place on this hallway right up the stairway, but it will cause us to lose 2 classrooms. And in order to accommodate that, we were going to have to go into mobiles, and had already worked that out, but once our team learned that mobiles were, just to install the mobile was going to be $150,000 and then $8,000 a month. It's just not good fiduciary responsibility. However, we really don't have anywhere to go. But we have gotten people, because we do have a good team. We're just going to quadruple up. I can't even say triple up. We really are quadrupling up. Mr. Gaskins already has 6 people in that closet, and it's no exaggeration. We have people in the closet. But we went over today to look at games, and we feel like if we don't put someone there soon, it's just going to become a liability. We have had people living in the earth shelter. Someone had a Christmas tree in the earth shelter. It's just not a good situation for us to have properties sitting empty. And so we're going to just team up, like I said, and quadruple up for the remainder of this year. And Mr. Gaskins has graciously agreed to move a large portion of his team, hopefully, to that area. And we will also use some of those rooms for professional learning spaces on the east side of town, so that we don't always have to come this way for professional learning space. But all of you know, like with any rental property, if it sits empty, then things happen to it. And it's just not good for us to have property sitting with no one there and no one to monitor it on a daily basis. So that will allow us to do that. But we do want to thank those staff members who are working, I mean, basically almost sharing desks at this point, but we want to do what's in the best interest of children. And they reserve that space for the manufacturing lab. So as adults, we will make the sacrifices, save that money, because we just could not. When I heard $8,000 a month for a trailer, I just could not in good conscience. And we would have taken green space away from Boys and Girls Club. So we have backed off of that option, and we will make it through the next 5 months and then begin to utilize the space over again. So until we can get some district office space. The school district will hold a community meeting that will be done by Mr. Fisher and Mr. Gilbert on Tuesday, January the 14th from 6 to 7:30, and it will actually be here, and that is in regard to the West Hall property. There will be a series of meetings just about process. It's not a meeting to discuss or debate usage, but just to explain the process for how we will move forward with that building and renovation. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, the first meeting is Tuesday, January the 4th, from 6 to 7:30 here. January 14th, I'm sorry, January the 14th, from 6 o'clock to 7:30 here. And then there will be 2 or 3 other meetings held in the community area, and we will get those dates out from Mr. Fisher when those are announced. And any questions about anything I've shared? Dr. Dan, you look like you want to ask.
Well, I was thinking about when you mentioned the property, Mr. Davis and Ms. Davis, I think there was a committee, but I don't, it seems like it's related to this, but not that meeting, but I don't know if it was something that.
I think it's somewhat, if I understand this correctly, these are preliminary meetings just to kind of put it out there with the public. There will be a kind of a stakeholders group that will be formed, is my understanding, and then Linda and I are both members of that stakeholders grouping that will.
That's correct, yes. Any other questions regarding those items? We have 3 presentations, 4 presentations.
Yeah, were you gonna, okay, that's the 4th one? Because we were gonna talk.
Your item, yes, I will add, I will come back. Early Head Start was added, that wasn't on mine, I'm very sorry. Before we go to that, we did have some questions regarding the use of our facilities for polling locations and the voters registration. The voting office people came and did a evaluation of facilities, and I was asked by Mr. Davis just to address that. Initially, we were told that there were issues with our facilities, but it's been brought to our attention that when they came to do the standard evaluation, we were not told that they needed access to the electrical panels. Due to some of the new voting machines, they have to also vet electricity options at the polling sites, and we weren't told that in advance, so they did acknowledge that the schools weren't told. So when they got there, some of the facilities did not have people on site who had keys to access that for them to go in and do the evaluation that needed to be done. But that was due to no fault of those schools. They just weren't told that that was what was needed. It's also been brought to our attention that there are 2 polling sites, 2 precincts, I'm sorry, at the Gaming School location, thus causing more space needs than the school can accommodate. So we will be working with them, Mr. Fisher and his team, to ensure, 1, that we meet the standards required to support those voting locations as well as the space requirements. Questions, Mr. Davis, you might have a question.
No, I mean, if at a later time, if I can consult with Mr. Fisher about the specifics, because I have been attending the Board of Elections meetings, and I've been talking to the director today of elections, and there's a space issue about games, and so if I could, talk to Mr. Fisher about that at a later time,
Let me comment back quickly about the executive session, Dr. Thomas. I did talk with Ms. Solby. You would think an operational guy would know how to do this, but obviously not. Because I was in executive session today, Ms. Salisbury did call me, and 2 of the locations that they want to look at now is Oakland Elementary School and Hillsman Middle School. So they are coming back on January 16th. The 4 schools that they missed in December, there was those 4 schools, and then the 2 schools that I just mentioned. Now, I will talk with the principals on tomorrow to let them know that those 2 schools, possibilities, they may be used as polling sites come March.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. You can leave it on. Any other questions? Next, we have a presentation, and it's really just an informational presentation. If you all recall, at the last board meeting, we had a public speaker who discussed the needs of transportation staff and childcare, and I have received some questions from you all regarding those public comments. So we have, again, Mr. Fisher and Mr. Weaver here just to show a few, just maybe 4 quick slides to answer some of your questions regarding that, and then the board can decide how you all would like for us to proceed moving forward. We don't have to make that decision tonight, but you can email us and let us know how you'd like for us to proceed. Mr. Weaver.
Again, Dr. Thomas and Fisher Board, I want to kind of talk about the transportation department with regards to public speakers talking about Kitty Land, and it's at the transportation facility. And just to give you all a history of kind of what happened over the years, it came about because of the drivers that transported our students. They would come to work every day, and they had students that went to school in the district. Back in originally when the transportation department was on Alexander Street, those drivers would bring their students to the bus garage, go ahead and walk their students to the bus, and they would ride the bus to school from the bus garage. Over the years, as we know that as time goes on, we grow. And one of the growing pains is the fact that we are larger than when we were on Alexander Street. We are now transporting over 14,000 students, 7,000 students daily with 132 buses going out on the route every day. So we have 132 drivers, and some of them have children, and they bring their children with them. So they all come to our current location, which is at 165 Paradise Boulevard. The employee parking lot is in front of the bus compound, and the bus compound is where the buses are. We've had situations in the state of Georgia where students were killed on bus compounds. And so in order to make it safe, we called the place Kitty Land, which was to put some structure around what we were doing, and that was bringing the students to the James Gurley Transportation Building, just to make it safe, because with the parking lot for the drivers to be coming to work and parking, we didn't need students running between the cars and those kinds of things. We didn't want to have any, we had a number of near misses, but we don't want that situation going on here. As we've grown, we have the homeless education program, and with the homeless education program, it's been easier for us logistically to bring those students to the bus garage and have those students transport out from there to their school of origin. Because of HEP, we have other districts that we meet their buses to pick up those students and to get them to their school of origin. HEP is the homeless education program. So totally right now we have 100 students, 61 employee students that come to the bus garage, and then 39 HEP students. And so with that, we wanted to put some structure around what was going on. Get the students out of the employee parking lot was one thing, and then also getting them, making sure that they are safe. We have structure around it where we deliver on the south driveway, and they exit on the north driveway. The students are escorted by an adult attendant that watches over them to get them into the building. What we have found, though, in our research, when we checked with the district attorney, with regards to just having students in the area, and what we needed to do is we needed, the attorney did not recommend us keeping the students, at the transportation garage, because actually the transportation garage is not a place for students. And so in that research, we found, and we also checked with GSBA. GSBA did not recommend us having students at the facility as well. We do understand that it is something that, we have to deal with. So in other considerations, locations for the place, challenges of transporting from one location to the various schools, how we determine which CCSD employees are given the option for this service. And the next steps would be to research alternatives for viable solutions.
One of the things, I think that third bullet is one of my greatest concerns is where do you draw the line? So we recognize and totally understand and are sensitive to the fact that our drivers get to work very early, but our nutrition workers, many of them get to work about 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning so that they can have breakfast service prepared for our students when they arrive in the schools at 7:15. So it is possible, actually very likely, that we also have nutrition workers who have children who need caring for in the mornings. And could also be an issue for paraprofessionals at the elementary level who have to arrive at school at 7:15 and their children's schools don't open until 7:15. So as we look at this, I just want to be sure that we're equitable in providing support for any of our classified staff members who might be in need of child care, that we don't isolate this to one employee. Is that accurate? Are there questions about this? So I think this is a lot maybe to take in, but wanted to at least make sure you had an understanding of how we got to where we are and what efforts have been made for a number of years on behalf of transportation to be supportive of their employees. Yes, sir, Mr. Davis, and then Mr. Word.
For the homeless students, what has been done prior to Kittyland? What was the, do we know?
The historical background for the homeless students, they were transported directly from wherever their pickup point was, if it was meeting another bus, directly to the school. But with our shortage of drivers, it has become increasingly difficult to have buses meeting. Say for instance, we have some buses that come out of Madison County that we have to meet. A lot of times we have to meet those buses at 5:45, 6 o'clock time frame in order to get them to school on time. So that was one of the reasons why it was moved to bring those students. We get the students 5:45, get them to the bus garage, because that actual bus that say go to Cleveland Road, we can get that bus to Cleveland Road on time and get the other students that also are transported there, all within a route. But in the past, they've been routed directly without any type of
Yes, I like the idea of providing some type of services for workers, because we realize the fact that there are some people that are employed and they don't have any other options in terms of their children being taken care of. Because I can recall when I see shows on the school, but if we have an instructional program for daycare. Now, having said that, you mentioned something that really set my antenna. GSBA, they have insurance on it. And obviously, they probably said even better, it's a liability. Now, also having said that, have you looked at some other options that you can do to provide care for those bus drivers' children?
Yes, we have looked at some other options to try to come up with a solution. One of the things was trying to find another location possibly, but in that vetting process, we got to have staffing, we got to work the logistics of being able to get buses routed to those places and those kinds of things. You know, we look at that.
And I think we may be able, I'm sorry, Mr. Ware, to be able to possibly find a solution, but it's not something that can take place overnight. Mr. Weaver and his team has actually done an excellent job of trying to identify options, but there's so many things you don't, not you personally, we don't think about. So for example, let's just pretend we brought them here. We have an early childhood class. It would be great for those students to get hours under supervision of an adult to provide that child care. But it's also possible with that then, that we could have 40 kids here that then have to go to 13 different schools when school opens. So if the parents dropped off here at 5:30 in the morning, we provide child care. So I said, no, that's great, the kids can get hours. We were excited, and then Mr. Weaver said, okay, now, we gotta remember how many different elementary schools do those 40 kids go to. So then do we have to run buses from potentially even Winterville School could have a kid. So those are the logistics that we will have to figure out if we go to a centralized place. Just one example of.
And also one other thing that I'd like to make you aware of is originally it was just basically a staging area for the driver to come in and do their pre-trip. The driver does a 15-minute pre-trip, they're on their bus, and then they're out to do their route. In putting a logistical thing together, that would mean moving from a driver would have to bring their child to a particular location, and that child would have to stay there more than 15 minutes, and then we gotta then the driver has to come from Paradise over to this location to pick up the students, and then we gotta think about the traffic, cars coming through here. We already have that challenge with ACC being here and having to transport from here to out to the different schools as well.
Now, the additional statement I want to make now, considering options, Paradise Valley is this out.
It's just no location.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna piggyback on that, but again, you have a perfect solution to a problem for a group of people. And so I would ask us to consider looking at options to making that work. If GSBA as the insurer is the problem, then we'll get somebody else underwrite that coverage for that space. So we can partner with our Office of Early Learning or even some of the other programs around where we could get some of our students involved in handling that role. As a product of Athens, Clarke County, I got up at 5 o'clock to get on a bus, that was a county bus, because we live outside the city limits. We literally rode that bus all around the county before we got lined up in this way. But again, that's what we had to do because that was the structure we were given. So I think, again, that was a great solution for the bus drivers. And I think it's almost a part of equity for teachers that can bring their kids to the school they teach. So I mean, this is something we could probably let's look at again. We good to continue looking at other options for making that work, if we can.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say one other thing. I mean, to piggyback on what Linda said, my concern would also be if we simply dropped it, which I know that's not what you're saying, but if we were, then would we lose bus drivers? And so are we creating even more of a problem, because bus drivers don't have a choice, in terms of, their kids versus the workload. So I don't know, I'm just raising that as a.
You recognize that, that's
Yeah.
why he's worked so diligently to make it work before.
Yes, I recognize that, and then also I've checked with other districts around other counties, and they don't have anything to this magnitude. So, it's the catch-22, we're looking at what we can do for our group, to help support them as well.
Mr. Weaver, What's happening with Kitty Lamb right now? Like, are students still there, like this morning? Okay.
Yes.
And so it sounds like there's, until a solution is found, they'll still be there, or is there a current end date and then plans to end it and then figure things out, or what?
Plan is, let them stay through school, and that was it, we not come on.
Okay.
We need to understand, basketball, and all parents, that thing, I'm on my country, we lose kids, and we do, we have nothing, everybody going. So I would, for us, as a district, you come up with a plan, my 55 paradigm is not conducive to state public. We have three schools here, they go in the summer.
You can devise plans.
Yeah, and so we'll tell staff no, what that is, planning, you are going to.
And as you're coming up with solutions, are these like, I would imagine that the drivers are sharing, you know, what their thoughts are as far as what, in my experience with transportation, is that they, you know, they're involved in sharing what is feasible for them, so that the solution is, you know, actually a solution that works for them. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have a presentation regarding percentages, crisis alert, and staff alert system. Mr. Fisher, do you want to just do a brief introduction about the safety funds that we received from the state and why we're at this point of having this presentation?
First of all, as you all know, our governor, when he got elected, one of the things that they want to put together from the state was to use funds from the governor's office to fund security issues within our school system around the state of Georgia. Every school we have an opportunity to apply for these funds, and of course we, Clarke County, will apply for these funds and make those funds available. And we took a look, we did a study about a district and tried to figure out what would be our best needs to support security in all of our schools. We got cameras and we're doing very well with that, but we also look around meet other school districts to see what they were doing. And one thing that we came up with what we call the notification system, that any staff, faculty, administrator could utilize if something's going on in the school. We have an active shooter that was going on in the school. They would push a button and notify everybody in that school. They'll know what's going on. We got bad weather. We do a notification about bad weather. There's a fight going on somewhere. We notify somebody and say, this is what we have going on. And what this is doing is enhancing what we already have. Got cameras, so what else can we do to improve safety in our school? When I took this job, one thing that I was told, we want to make sure that our school is safe on a daily basis. And that will keep me up at night. And make sure that our school, our students, our teachers are safe on a daily basis. So with that in mind, we want to present this to you, to take a look at it. Representative Dean from the company is going to do a short presentation to give you all an opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you, Board, Dr. Thomas, Cabinet. I'm Dean Olds with Strategics, and we'll go fast, I know it's going, but we're an Atlanta-based company, and right now we're protecting over 600,000 staff and students on 700 campuses. And that includes 2 of the largest. So really this kind of came from the world has changed, right? And when I went to school, probably when a lot of us went to school, we didn't have lockdowns, we didn't have a lot of those things, right? We had a tornado, that was about it. But when we looked at it, it's a different world. There's more incidents happening, right? There's more liability for the school districts, for administrators, and what do they do? So when we look at it, we say, well, how do we fix security, right? So we have prevention. You mentioned the cameras, the access control, things like that, right? So that's where it starts, the prevention. Then you get into preparation, right? If something happens, let's do some drills, let's do some of those things. But then what we really do is focus on the response. When something happens, right? When there's a fight, when there's a medical emergency, if someone comes in, right? Then how do you respond? How do you know sooner, right? How can you get that message quicker? And then how do you get help on the way faster? Some of the other things you may have seen, and you may have, right? Even some of the applications that can't just take out a phone. It's really hard to do in a panic situation to have a pull out a phone. And the other thing is a button on the wall. You have a button in your classroom, right? Can you get to it? If you have a kid having a seizure on the ground, you can't get over to a wall. If you're in a cafeteria, they may not have buttons. So really, this had to be a system that we designed that every person, every staff member had on them at all times, was discreet, but then would work everywhere and be, very efficient. So also just the possibility, can anyone call? So if you see someone with a gun, can you start a lockdown from anywhere on campus? That actually came out of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission, that everyone should have the ability, because there were several employees that saw the shooter that couldn't do anything. And that's where a lot of the casualties came from. So really the system is all based upon a badge. The main thing is every staff member carries this. It fits right behind their staff ID and has kind of two main purposes. The first one is if they see a fight, if they have a medical issue, then that would be what we call a staff alert, and they would just click that 3 times. The next one is, let's say they do see that active shooter, right? They can just keep clicking that, and after a certain amount of time, what's going to happen is we do a whole bunch of different things that we call a campus alert. So in a staff alert, it is, again, click it 3 times, and it's going to then just alert responders in that school. Usually we like to say, people with the walkie-talkie now, right, will get alerted that there's something going on. Part of our system is we let them know where it's going on. So it's not where a teacher normally is, or where a cafeteria worker might normally be. This is where they are. So it could be a parking lot, practice fields, it could be room 202. So it will let those responders know that someone needs help in this area, and then they can respond to it. The next part with the campus alert, so now let's say you see someone with a gun, you just keep clicking that. That now does 2 things. We again alert responders to let them know that you need help at a higher level, but we also start alerting other people, cabinet, district administrators, district safety people, so they can start responding. Then also, we let the school know, right? And that's an important part that we look at, like fire systems, right? We let the fire department know when you pull that fire alarm to come and help, but you're also really letting everyone else in the building know that there's a fire. So that's part of our system, is we have strobe lights all over a building, and those strobe lights, the average school has about 120 of those. They can light up red, green, blue, yellow, white, for all types of emergencies or protocols that you would set in your schools. So that way, if it starts lighting red, not only do you have announcements going on, but you'll have the strobes lighting up red. You have computers taking over. Every computer screen's taking over with your messaging, and you have automatic intercom announcements. And it's automatic, so you don't have to have an administrator try to get to the intercom and make something in a panic situation. So all this happens automatic. It can either be started from an administrator or, again, from any staff member with their badge. So it really cuts down on the time and the awareness and the response back. The parts of the system, I know it's a lot of different pieces that get installed in a lot of different places. Really is all about that, because we're a complete different network. So we're not on your Wi-Fi, we're not on your network. We're a complete separate network, and that way we ensure coverage, right? Because sometimes you don't have coverage in these schools. It's really hard with cellular. It's really hard with Wi-Fi to go up in some of these outdoor. So we build our whole system to make sure you're covered. We see that. And good news is that it's all batteries. We don't have to run wires. This isn't a long implementation process that we're in these schools for 6 months or a year trying to run all the wires everywhere, disrupting learning. We get in, we get out, and allow you to start using the system. Little diagram. So again, coverage, we see it all, so you don't have to worry, hey, are we in the right place? If we're in a stairwell, does it work in that system? So I'll kind of open it up if there's any questions at all about the solution. Yes.
You know, in terms of, as a individual staff member, you said that there's 3 clicks and that means one thing.
Yes.
And then repeated over and over and over and over and over and over again means something else. But then further down, you said, but there, you know, we have medical, we have, so, you know, we have medical, we have fire, we have active shooter, we got all this. How does that click translate into?
Yep, so a good question, and a lot of people go, you know, how many buttons do you have on it? And really we just have one. It's one button, but like you said, we don't have multiple, you know, it's not 5 or 6 different things. For staff, that you're gonna go, all of your staff members, there's really 2 purposes. One is you click it 3 times, that's just, I need help. I don't need to let the whole school know, I just need help. It might be for a medical, might be for a fight. When we started talking to law enforcement, they said, don't put different buttons. Because what happens is, they're gonna hit the wrong one in an emergency, or they're gonna freeze and not hit anything at all. So they said, you just do it, and you know, they start clicking. It will start vibrating them after, letting them know that they did what they need to do and stop. So that's for all instances of, you know, fight, medical, and once the responders get it, your school administrators, then usually their response is the same. It's usually still the AP, it's still the principal, you know, it's those people getting down there if they need to now call 911, if they need to, you know, get an ambulance, those things can still go, it's just about that faster response. The other side is if you keep clicking, right? That's really your lockdown or, you know, your protocol that you guys have in your district. And that's where all the lights will go red and go through. So that's kind of the 2 pieces that staff members do. That's the only 2. And we just say keep clicking if it's a, you know, lockdown, or the 3 clicks, I just need help. The other pieces that you get administrators. So let's say, I think an example, you have a robbery at a local CVS. And you want to quick put these 3 schools into a soft lockdown or modified lockdown, given what your protocol is, then you can have an administrator at the district level select those 3 schools, place them in lockdown. Those lights now maybe aren't red, they're yellow, right? The intercom announcement now is saying, you know, soft lockdown. It's doing the different versions now of that system. So instead of a lot of protocols now and how districts are doing it, is they get a call from the local law enforcement, and they're now doing a phone tree. So they're starting to try to call all these schools and say, hey, you need to go into this. Well, that's really hard in a lot of schools, right? You have, you know, sometimes students manning the front desk, and it's hard to get that message across. So this way, immediately when you select those schools and go into a soft lockdown or lockdown, all the lights happen, the intercom announcements, the desktop take over every computer in that school, and then let the principal call you, right? Let the principal say, what's going on? At least everyone's safe first, and then questions can be answered after. Does that help answer the question?
So that level of engagement only happens at the administrative level, where the different color lights are taken over the computer. That's not done at the teacher level.
That's correct, only if it was a lockdown. Yeah, that lockdown is kind of from the badges. Everything else is really up to your team to go through and establish a protocol.
So, and then following up to what Dr. Thomas said, so you're saying that, well, you kept talking about the central office, but with the school administration, they would have control on the light structure, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
What happens if they click more than 3 times, but not like 10 times?
It's still a step. So everything is still, so you're still letting someone know they need help, but then it's not going to go all the way. So, you know, if you click, so how we train, we don't say train and click it 10 times, right? We say you keep clicking. If it's a lockdown shooter situation, you keep clicking till the lights go up, till the sound goes off, right? That's how we train the staff.
I just want to make sure that if they hit it 4 times instead of 3 times because they needed help, that it wasn't going to lock.
No, oh yeah, it will go to the help call, and then they are still allowed, you know, even if they start clicking a few times and they come back, it would just cancel it.
And so what if they fumble with it while trying to do something else and they click it 2 times?
Just twice?
Yeah, no, nothing, okay. So 3 is so that.
Yeah, that's the accident.
Reducing the false alarm.
You got it.
You said that this is battery.
That's right.
So when you say that, you mean all these devices are battery along with every.
Yeah, all the strobe lights are battery, the badges are battery, all of them have a 5-year battery life. So it's really to help lower the maintenance.
Okay, so And this is on, later on in our work session, but the cost that's listed
Into a software, and depending if you want hardware as well, then that can go, depending software hardware, 2,500 to 3,500 per year.
Who is your chief competitor?
A lot of apps, right? So that's kind of where this started, because it's a real easy product to make that you can put a bunch of apps on teachers' phones. But again, we've seen districts that have gone that way and done pilots that they can't get that message to every teacher just because the built-in infrastructure is really hard for sight. So apps are a big one, or fixed buttons also.
So you developed this technology yourself, your company developed this technology?
That's correct.
You're out of planning?
Yep. And Locust.
What's the status of the lawsuit?
So the status right now is they are saying that some of the technology that was acquired by 34 Ed is some of their property. When that acquisition happened, we decided to not use any of the technology. So none of that technology actually made it into this new system. We decided to be better that way, so we never go. Identification is part of every contract. We do, so you would not be any liability for that, but it was not be able to take that for the acquisition.
If I can give more of the background on that. When this company, that is good.
Yeah, that's good.
When this first started, it started, I think, Mr. Olds and his company said that the sole source, the district decided to put out an RFP anyway. We got an Open Records Act request from a large law firm, Oliver Knight, looking for information about this lawsuit, which is still ongoing subsequently. So then the RFP actually used, pretty much twice, this company being provided. We got a letter from Alert Point's lawyers saying, this alleged misappropriated technology, RFP, so the fraud RFP, diagrams and all that. 34 Ed is doing business as if we only respond to that. So that's where we are today, and I just wanted to give more of that background. There is this controversy over alleged misappropriation.
And I absolutely understand, we're in, again, probably over 50 districts in Georgia. And, when we look, I think they're in a couple. So we're definitely out there, and it's a used system all over. I think locally, Coney, Jefferson City, Commerce City, Madison, Jackson, Barrow, and Franklin are all different processes of the implementation.
Yeah, I've got another question for you, and then I've got some questions to the superintendent or Mr. Fisher. So this would be attached, this would be like part of the badge system that a teacher would essentially, or a staff person, because all staff would have this.
Absolutely.
So they would be attached in some way, they would be on the lanyard together, is that the idea?
Yes, this would just fit right behind the staff ID. And so it doesn't replace the staff ID. If you're using access control, that still all works the same. This just fits right behind it, so you wear it together.
Okay, how much abuse can it take?
It's pretty good. And actually, we have schools tell us that their problems they have with normal access control badges actually have lessened when they have this, because teachers start saying, hey, I got to treat it a little differently. It's not just a piece of plastic, right? It's got communication, but it's waterproof, right? So you can sit on it, you can do those things, and it still keeps going. The other part is we monitor all devices. So let's say something were to happen. Either premature battery or have something that happened and they destroyed it. We know. So every day, every device is checking in and saying, hey, here's my battery, here's my status. So if someone's would start to go down or start to fail, we would know that before they hit the button.
Okay, and in terms of the, it only goes one way, right? So when the teacher or a staff person clicks 3 times, then the expectation is that school administration will respond instantaneously. I mean,
Yes, yeah.
So your comment about tracking the devices just made me think of something. Is it tracking people's location?
No, so we definitely.
Only if they
It's when they press the button. So the only other thing that happens is once in a while it just sends what we call a heartbeat. It's just sending some of the battery information firmware and things like that. Otherwise, yeah, we're not tracking anyone until that button's pressed.
Okay, all of this is based on the assumption of the teachers, the administrative staff, substitute teachers, which are going to have to make paid.
The substitute teachers?
Yes.
And that's up to the administration, how you roll it out. We have some counties and some districts that say, yes, substitutes also get this. Because it's not hard to train how to press the button, it's pretty easy. It really comes down to when you press the button and who you're giving that power to. So that's going to be your administration decides that.
You know, one thing, part of this contract here, all our staff get trained. You're not just going to go out there, your company will come in and train our staff. So all 21 schools we got, all of them will be trained.
So my question was to Mr. Fisher, I just don't remember seeing an RFP on this, there was an RFP?
Yes, we did too.
Okay.
Sometime.
Sometime.
We did one RFP, because we got, that was going to be a time. We got to go back and redo it, so we brought my scope. We did the RFP, put it back out on the street, teacher, came back. We did everything, but
I'm sure you did, but I just don't remember seeing it.
Yeah, the good news is I think some of the competitor in that sense we're talking is even when we've seen them in a bid situation, I don't think there's ever been a time they've actually been lower than us. So it's also good for your taxpayers, right? It's when you talk about the steward of finance and things like that, we're not saying spend more for this, it's usually less.
and I think one of the questions that they had, that not coming out of general fund, this money is coming from the government, from the government fund, not coming out of our general fund.
There's a total amount coming from the government.
Yes, total amount.
Do we have a timeline, timeline?
Yeah, we have as much spent by the end of this year. So, we really did all our due diligence on this, to make sure, we think we can go back for the buck, this particular, project. Every school will have access to the project, to this information. So, we'll be ready to
Thank you.
and just following up with the question email. So the money that was designated by the state legislature, this is Mr. Fisher, the monies that were allotted by the state legislature, that's a one-shot deal, right? But this one-shot deal will give us 3 years of coverage. And then after that, we would have to make a determination.
from funding source, at least while we're on somewhere. And the good thing about this, it's not hardwired. We're not going to go down the rules. We can probably have this done within 2 or 3 months. Every school will be sealed for this.
And when does this money have to be spent? You told me.
In June,
In June.
we have already got everything set up, we're working with the finance team, set all this up. So once we start the program, we'll send out money, we'll have their reimbursements. They will bill with the company, and we send a receipt to the state, their reimbursements.
Okay, let me just ask Mr. Pruitt a question. Do you see, you talked about the lawsuit and everything, do you see a concern? Or is that just something we just kind of see what happens further down the line?
I wouldn't call it up, concern. I don't know what act on it. Obviously, we don't know who's right, who's wrong. It's all over the lawsuit. It's still, you go on a few months over the year, and it's still filing any complaints with the industry says, like, so, probably realistically, the most danger would be if this company loses that suit, settles whatever, it just ceases to exist. goes away. Also, whatever they here. I suppose, I mean, I'm not an IT expert, but I could probably so I'm a little out of school. I don't know if there's a possibility of the district actually maybe addendum or implementing somehow, so you are aware of this and involved in any way. You know, getting embarrassed of the student with the parties that do something.
Is there any protection that we can purchase for ourselves along with this in that eventuality?
Well, as Mr. Old said, there is this indemnity clause that kind of in the proposal they made, they would indemnify the district against those claims, but that assumes they're still there to indemnify. So if that situation arises, that probably goes away with that problem. I don't know if there's any contractual, but typically you're going to have insurance coverage with contractual claims. You potentially have a performance bond, so that there's a surety to stand behind it. That's usually part of the standard RFP. I don't know if it's relevant to the rest of that or not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Gaskins is going to come up to introduce our next presentation.
All right, good evening. So tonight's presentation is regarding the memorandum of agreement between the Clarke County School District, Clarke Central High School, and 3DE. So this agreement is to begin the planning for Junior Achievement Business Academy for the 2020-21 school year at Clarke Central High School. So just a broad overview of 3DE. So it's really an approach to learning using a case study methodology to integrate real-world connectivity into the standard high school experience by using our current Georgia standards. So the framework helps students and teachers approach learning through interdisciplinary pedagogy and authentic project-based learning. So tonight we have Clarke Rogers. She's the Senior Vice President of Launch and Expansion with 3DE. She's going to give us some more information about the potential partnership, and then we will jointly answer any questions that you have.
Well, good evening. Thanks so much for your time and consideration this evening. I'm Clarke Rogers. I'm with 3DE. I'm going to be providing a brief overview and just give any opportunity to ask questions. So I'll start with Mr. Gaskins provided a great overview, but I'll provide a little bit more information, just a little more commentary on what is 3DE. Again, it's about providing a relevant and authentic experience and opportunity for high school students. Again, it's all about that opportunity and exposure. If I put myself in your chairs, it's like, what does 3DE stand for and what is it? It's really a three-part partnership among a school district, junior achievement, and you may have heard of junior achievement, and then the business community. And what that looks like is really just a learning framework. It's a program, if you will, a learning framework and pedagogy that is driven through interdisciplinary learning. There's the key words, interdisciplinary learning. Working off the overview that was in board docs as well as on the screen, but a couple of key things about the pedagogy and that framework. What does that mean? When we say interdisciplinary, it's interdisciplinary learning. It's driven through project-based and standards-based learning. This is all not replacing any kind of curriculum. It's all integrated into the Georgia standards, as well as really tying back to project-based applications. So students are doing project-based learning tied to standards-based learning. Those business partners, the way that is sort of executed is through case-based learning. So the case-based learning is the pedagogy, as opposed to project-based learning done in an interdisciplinary format. And the idea, you'll see some of the outcomes as far as some of the indicators. Students are about 90% of the students in 3DE outperform their peers on the different milestones or on the state standardized tests. Looking at a 94% student stability rate as well as a strong academic, or not just academic, but also cognitive indicators, attendance, behavior, etc. And so really the whole idea and what we're here, what we offer is an opportunity for the student perspective is that it's all about providing relevant examples. As business partners will help a student to see how they might use math to solve a problem for Delta Airlines, how you might use science, social studies, language arts, doing these challenges. And the idea is that seeing that relevance, that drives student engagement, which can unlock that potential for students. That's the framework. A couple of key, I guess, nuts and bolts of it. It's where are we? We're about 5 years in. So again, I'm with 3DE, we are a subsidiary of JUSA, so we still partner with Junior Achievement. We are in about 13 schools this school year. We're projected to be in about 23 next school year, and we're kind of in our next phase. We launched and opened in the 2015-2016 school year. And you'll see the list of schools here on the screen. You'll see about 17 listed. We're projected at about 23, but really our goal is, as Mr. Gaskins mentioned, my role is tied to launch and expansion. And so we're really expanding in the state of Georgia. I'm a native Georgian. Expanding in the state of Georgia and also expanding in some key markets around the country. Florida, Texas, Greater Washington, D.C. area, California, Northeast, and Northwest. But continuing to really make sure we're providing this opportunity to students in Georgia. We have about 50, for lack of a better term, 55 slots, so funding for 55 schools in the next 5 years, continuing to expand that opportunity beyond that. We have a slot, for lack of a better term, available, for Clarke County, and so we wanted just to provide that opportunity. When we say that opportunity, it is, and I believe me when I say there is no cost to the school district. We're a nonprofit. So basically how we're funded is we raise funds through our business partners. Why do they donate or contribute? Because they see this as workforce development, they see it as a talent pipeline, and they value education. And so they're investing. That then provides funding for 3DE to provide the service. And what do we mean by the service? Once I go into it, that means that it's providing support to that school. So the school is partnering with, the high school is partnering with 3DE. We provide the case challenges. So we go out with the companies. Those case challenges, they're standards-based. We have a team of folks that know standards that design the cases to help make them standards-based. So a teacher's not having to do that from herself. And then we also provide 2 staff that are on site at that school, truly there to support. One is like a coach to partner and help with that standards-based support, and one is somebody that's there to work with the volunteers that come in from your business. So volunteers come into school to support that case challenge, and we don't want your teachers or your schools to have to think about, what do I do with this person that's just come in from, AT&T? We have a staff person there to support that and to collaborate with the school. So the funding provides the service, and really the partnership is really just to partner with the school system to provide that opportunity for the schools. And so I will pause there and I'm sure you might have questions, so fire away. Yes, sir.
I had the opportunity at the last National School Board Association meeting to hear from Van Necker High School. And it was an impressive presentation, but it was a little bit different than how you're explaining it.
Okay.
The way it was explained in that workshop is that this is, to some degree, a school within a school, is how they were describing it. That it built up over a period of 3 years to getting 1/3 of each class each year. I mean, you start off with a freshman, you take 1/3, and then those freshmen become, maybe it's 4 years, over a 4-year period. But anyway, it works its way up until a 3 or 4 year period, then it will include 1/3 of the student body. And that it would have its own teaching staff, it would have its own administrator, and it would have its own set of experiences for those students who have fit into the program. Now, it was explained in the workshop that as the program enrollment of students is very consciously put together so that it represents the social, economic, racial makeup of the student body of that particular school. Okay, and I'm saying all these things because I want to make sure that I haven't misinterpreted something. So am I right so far, so good?
Yes, and from our perspective, when we say learning framework, it's a cohort-driven model. So when we say school within a school, it's not a separate governance, it's not a charter school, it's not that. It's really just, school within a school is the format that we call it, but it's really a cohort model. And that's in spirit of transparency, that's why that cohort is there. So there's a faculty cohort, if I'm a 3D teacher, I'm teaching 3D students, but they're still the Banneker High School student.
Right.
They're not a separate student code, but it's it's a cohort of students and a faculty cohort. Students still, so if you're in a 4x8, students still take band, art, what have you. They're just taking about 4 to 5 of their classes within that cohort or school within a school format. From the teachers, it's not funding for those teachers. It's just by that per pupil funding. So if you have a cohort of about 180 students and you've got about whatever the numerical formula is, and you've got about 5 teachers that are teaching within that cohort, it's whatever mirrors that allotment that's there. And similarly from a assistant principal, frankly, that varies from school to school. At International High School, it was a what we call semantics, but a dedicated assistant principal. It was an additional allotment based on the funding formula that was available in Hilton County. But of the 13 schools we have currently, the projected 23, I'd say maybe a third have an additional, from a funding perspective, allotment. Most other schools have an assistant principal that is a designated assistant principal, not an additional allotment, but someone who collaborates with those 2 staff that are on site to support the 3D model and to support that cohort.
Okay, if I can go one step further, and then, the one concern I had, and we just ran out of time at the workshop, so I was never able to really pursue it, is looking at it from the teacher perspective. Because, and I know that Mr. Gaskin's has personal experience with this, and so he may be able to help us too to understand. But, it's part of my experience in teaching high school is that the more senior you are, the easier your caseload gets. And so the idea is that if you're in the school system for 15 years, you get kids who are more likely to be highly motivated because they're juniors and seniors, or they're college prep, or they're AP. And so so there's certain advantages to longevity, and then the teachers who are not in that situation would end up with more challenging students, which I always thought should be flipped in a certain sense. That your most experienced teachers should have the biggest challenges. But I'm not sure how do the teachers apply in the same way that Mr. Gaston's shaking his head. So the teachers would apply in the same way that the student, because these are students who have self-selected themselves. And so there are a different model of student.
Right, so in the partnership, we would select the current staff to become 3DE teachers. So part of the process that we went through that I didn't mention is that Dr. Thomas and I, we were on phone calls with Clarke probably about 2 or 3 months out before we even selected a school and had the idea about Clarke Central High School. So once we picked a school, then we went, had a meeting with the administration at that school, and then we took teachers from Clarke Central to visit Banneker High School and Parkview High School to get their perspective on, is this something that teachers would be interested in doing? So their question, just like your question, would be, would teachers be assigned? Would teachers interview? Would teachers be raise their hands? And it would be a selection process because it is different from the traditional way of teaching, and there is a commitment around professional learning. There is 3DE provides professional learning in the summer, so we would need teachers that could commit to coming, I think it's 2 weeks maybe, before school starts, to the professional learning that is required to teach the case studies.
I have a question. The 2 staff people that I think it was 2 that you said would be there, what do they do? What would be their roles?
So it's a school director and a partnership director. So the school director is really for lack of a better term, a coach. They're, if I'm a 3DE teacher, again, I'm an employee of Clarke County School District. If I'm at Clarke Central, I got my own performance appraisal, so that's my AP, that's whomever. But that 3DE director is providing support. Students, the teachers still meet as an interdisciplinary PLC. They still meet with their content area. They meet as an interdisciplinary PLC, and that school director provides on-site coaching. So, hey, you're doing this Delta case challenge, or you're doing this space challenge, and we're going to talk with you about, share examples of what other schools have done, how you can provide thought starters around how you might be able to integrate a math standard into that. So they're more the coach to support the teachers in providing that interdisciplinary, project-based type of standards-based. What we know for sure is a one-and-done training does not work. And so yes, there's summer training, it's about 2 days in the summer, but that on-site school director is a coach to provide ongoing support to the teachers to continue to integrate their standards. The partnership director is more of a subject matter expert on that case itself, on what that company is. The teachers like, I don't understand what ReliaQuest is. Can you please help me understand what cybersecurity is like? Can you assist with that? And again, they are providing, that partnership director is responsible for training the volunteers as they come in. So the Delta Airlines volunteer comes in, they're responsible for training that, so it's not a burden to the school. And then that partnership director is also responsible for finding additional volunteers. Not just folks who unite with the companies, but also coaches to support the students, mentors, etc.
Now, one thing and I wasn't sure if did Delta adopt all the schools in Fulton County, or did they focus on Van Necker?
No, they're a national partner. So
they're a national partner.
They're supporting, it's a great question. So if I'm a student in 3E, by the time I finish my 11th grade school year, I will have completed 16 different AIMS challenges. That's 16 different industries. It's meant to be very broad based. Half of those partners, or half of those industries are national partners. Delta Airlines, you'll see some of those up there, Home Depot, AT&T, Jackson Healthcare, a variety of industries. So that means every student in every 3E school and part of that network participates in that. So when Delta Airlines invests a certain fund, that goes to the 3E to support that national network of schools to provide that service. There are also local partners, so we recognize the importance from a student experience perspective to be exposed to national partners as well as local and regional. So we're in Savannah, we're at so half my cases are national partners, which is not just Atlanta, but around the country, and then half are local.
Okay, how will this, would this potentially impact our career academy? Because I mean, we're certainly going out, when you talk about local businesses, those are the same folks that we're working with in terms of the career academy, in terms of internships and partnerships and career pathways here. And I'm just, you can only go to the well so many times before people start saying, no, we've already contributed to this program for the Clarke County School District, and so we don't have any funds left for this program. So like I said, I'm impressed with the program. I was impressed with the presentation, but that's another question I have in terms of how it would impact the career academy. I don't know. Potentially.
Right, so it would not have an impact on the programming here at their career academy. Now, what is potentially what may happen is the enrollment. So based on a lot of things, just not 3DE, based on block scheduling, students have to make a choice. So these students that would be in 3DE, they would have to make a choice around the pathway that they want to take. So that pathway may be housed in this building that the scheduling permits. It may be at Clarke Central High School. So students will still be able to take a pathway, it just may not be here in this building.
So I know that the career academy is definitely kind of building up or expanding CTAD. What is the relationship between this and CTAD?
So that's a great question, and one thing that we need to consider as I was listening to you all talk about the relationship with the Career Academy, their board, and the district, is that we have to revisit what is really the vision of ACCA. So, and the goal. So if the goal is enrollment, that's great, but that's having an impact on both of our high schools. So having more kids enroll at ACCA is we're having an unintended consequence to our two high schools. And so there are some pathways that are provided in this building that can easily be provided at our high schools. We need to think about, and I think manufacturing is a perfect example, that can't be housed in the traditional building. So it's perfect that it's here. The cosmetology lab is another example of something that is appropriate in this building. We have teaching as a profession that's housed in this building that could easily be housed at one of our high schools. So I think that in the absence of a 3DE conversation, we have to revisit really what the purpose is of our ACCA.
Well said. And time. This is a big deal, I think, so just to see the, right, really has to be. But I really want to see the payback on this and how is it really impacting kids. So I'm excited about new things, so I'm sure that Aaron will be excited too, because now we'll learn vision and it's going to give us another opportunity to find those partnerships, but
I have a lot of questions. So the first one is, it's not all the students of the high school, right? So how are students selected is the first question. And then I think it sounds really great. I like the idea of case-based and project-based teaching. I guess my question is, I think well, first my statement is, I think that would be great for all students. And so what's going to happen if some students are getting this kind of learning and other students are not getting this kind of learning? And why is it that if we think this is the right thing to do, that we don't want to do this for all of our students?
Great question. The first question is, students raise their hand and sign up. So there's no GPA requirement. Any student that is interested in being in the program, you can become a part of the program, regardless if they are a student that has an IEP, regardless if they have any type of disability, they can be a part of the program. Historically, from my experience, when I supervised that for high school, it was very difficult to recruit students that first year. We were like putting applications in kids' hands and kids putting them back in our hands. So as the program grew and got a little more credibility, we would sign up kids at any year. So if a student came to Banneker High School as a 12th grade student and they wanted to become a part of 3DE, we allow them to join. And then the question around expansion, if we have a need to fill more seats because more students want to join 3DE, then we add teachers. Because it's all of our staff and there's not a monetary investment by the district, we can add as many students as we want. It could potentially be school-wide if we wanted it to be school-wide.
So then my other question, well, one of my other questions was, you mentioned that there was money and there were 55 slots basically for new schools. And you said that the money comes from businesses. How did our district get selected? Did we apply? And then sort of along those lines, I know that you said that doesn't cost the district any money, but it's sort of hard for me to believe that there isn't any cost to the district, and if there isn't cost to the district, what is it that you're getting out of us participating?
Okay, so there's not an application process per se. So 55 schools, about half of them are in Georgia, half outside of Georgia. And so when we say slots, it just means that that's as far as the program that we have. We have a variety. It's sort of like kind of a bird flying over the state of Georgia. We certainly want to continue to scale and replicate our phase 1 schools and the metro Atlanta because there's efficiency there. They continue to do 2 preschools per system. And at the same time, we want to diversify and know that we have districts that we're working in around the state. So we're continuing to just geographical diversity. Southeast, we're in Savannah, we're in the Northeast, we're in the Northwest, and having conversations with Austin. So it's just kind of a combination of making sure we have that geographic as well as just in general diversity, as well as so ours is in 3D, but we also just this organic conversation between your achievement. So a lot of it comes through the school systems talking to your achievement and then expressing that interest within 3D and then having a conversation. What were the questions?
Well, I guess the one big question, like I said, is I know that we don't pay you for this, but I wonder why do you do this?
We're a nonprofit, so our mission is to provide economic opportunity and ability to students, and so that's what we're here for. So we raise funds to execute on that mission. And so we do that in partnership with school systems because we're not a charter and we're not a separate independent. That was sort of the birthplace of junior achievement. We've been around for 100 years, still are. And so it's just continuing to partner with school system partners. And a lot of it, we know that we look at our own competencies and you're not going to get in your business when it comes to compliance, assessment, nutrition. We talked about that. That's your competency. What we are bringing to the table, and we have it all figured out. Business partners connecting to our elected school systems. And really, what's in it for us is to execute on our mission. That's what we are doing.
And then, Dr. Dyke, just for full transparency, indirect costs are the reason that we want to recruit and make sure that we have a full class size is we don't want class sizes of 5 because then those students we're either creating another section for students or we need to hire additional teachers to serve 3DE students because those other students that are not in 3DE still need that same teacher. So making sure that we meet our FTE. And then the other part, which we don't plan to do, if we designated a full-time AP to 3DE, that would be an additional cost. When we spoke to Dr. Huff and his administrators, they are able to identify a designated AP that would have 3DE responsibilities as well as other responsibilities throughout the school.
So I have a couple other questions, but I can ask you later because they're kind of specific. But the one last thing I wanted to ask, obviously you've been in contact with the administration at Clarke Central, and this is something that they are interested in doing. What about has the LSGT weighed in on this? Is this something that they were?
Great question. So we've scheduled 2 LSGT meetings. Unfortunately, I think it was in November and December. And so both of those meetings were canceled. So we have a meeting, I believe, scheduled 21st of January to present this to the LSGT.
My version from the past. Normally when that happens, I don't know, I did a lot of homework on this, and I truly, first of all, respect Mr. Ness and, everything brought to the district as well as Dr. Thomas. But I did do, a lot of research, and for me, the issue is not even towards you or this program. It's a much larger issue. And some of your indirect questions touched upon some of the things like, well, what are you really trying to get out of this? And also, like, I want to know who this curriculum, truly comes from. I have some trust issues, and like I said, it's part of a bigger issue of information. We've been in a world of open records lately. And, over the break, I had opportunity to study a lot of our open records and the receipts and the results. And when it comes to persons who are, who've been consultants with the district, connected to other organizations, which are connected to big wheel corporate organizations who have not had districts in their best interest, even in terms of the curriculum that they've written for, like, in directed junior achievement. So I have some reservations about who's truly funding all of these things and what that, could mean for us. I know we say it's free, but I don't know, this my intuition, I can't really say it's much more than that, but I'm gonna go with it. And based on, like I said, there are some big wheel organizations, there are some things that I found out through open records, applications that have been applied to be a part of organizations, and when people overdose, it narrows down to specific persons who are connected to this. And so, I'm really speaking to the board to say I have reservations, and it's not just with this project alone, but I feel overwhelmed that we have so many programs and projects, and we have not received any information about return on investment. We spend millions of dollars on Avid. We have not received anything to tell us about our return on investment. We had systems training, which is not directly related all this money going out, and I would like to see us slow down a little bit and understand what we have. What programs do we have already in place? Not to say we don't use this, because if you're saying it and the principal says it's okay, then I have to go with it's okay. So it's not directed towards that, it's directed towards the fact that we have some receipts, and we need as a board to review information and things that are taking place, and we need to review it, look at it, and get some questions answered. And I did speak with Mr. Gaston and Dr. Thomas today, real good conversation, and so it's not directed towards that, but I would not support it at this time, because I believe that we need to slow down and see what we already have, and then revisit, if we could. If that makes sense. I'm trying to talk as
Any other? Mr. Davis?
Well, I feel like, what is the time, let me put it this way, what is the timeline, Mr. Gaskins, in terms of, is this something that and I'm leaning towards supporting it, so I tell you that right up front, but, and I do so with my respect, colleague, the corporate world, the big corporate world, I would rather them donate to public schools than to charter schools, private charter schools. So that's kind of my thinking, because I know that this is very much big into the corporate world, but they can just as easy gravitate towards private charter schools. So but what is the deadline to kick this off? Because it seemed like it was something that we would have heard earlier, but I know you've been doing some background stuff.
So just to go back to give context, Dr. Thomas and I talked with 3D for a while, just to even see if it was a good fit for the district, to the points that Dr. Maddox just mentioned, like it's the readiness. And so part of, I think, that an issue that Dr. Thomas and cabinet that we've recognized is that sometimes we implement too fast. So the reason that we're bringing this in January, we've had talks amongst Dr. Thomas and myself around programming with 3DE. We spent time with the school making sure that they were comfortable. We went on visits. Clarke has had one-on-one phone calls with administration. The reason that we're presenting this in January is that we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence around informing parents, students, and teachers around the framework and the structure, and that we provide proper training. So for example, textbooks, and I'll be back soon around textbooks, you'll see me again, is that sometimes we don't implement into April or May, and then that doesn't give enough time for training to ask questions. So the reason that is in January is because high schools start scheduling now. So if we want to have a 3D program that launches in 2021, did I say that correctly? 21.
So it wouldn't be this fall, it would be the following. It would be.
It'd be fall 2020. It'll be, because if that's something that we implement, then there's a lot of behind the scene work that needs to go around scheduling, which we can do. And then the other caveat or thing we need to consider is that we are going to block scheduling. And that is a different, we're going back to block scheduling. So that's something that we need to consider, how those kids' schedules are made. So it's really about the time to make sure that we are logistically sound, and that our teachers receive the right professional development, and then that we spend enough time with our families and our students informing them that this is something that they are interested in or not interested in, and either way they're fine.
So February would be really pushing it in terms of the time frame.
It would, because the other part is that Dr. Huff would work with 3DE around the staff that they hire to help support the school. And so we want to find people as quickly as possible to make sure that we have the right fit with supporting the school.
Okay, this is be the last thing I say, but if my understanding is that this wasn't going to happen until we had this down. And that's the way it was presented to me, even at the National School Board Association meeting, was that BizTown was the first thing that Fulton County did, and those were for the younger grades, and then they added on. So to me, we kind of spent time kind of talking about BizTown for the last year and a half, and thinking that was, because when I talked to Dr. Means, it was always a prerequisite for what we're talking about now. And so I kind of wish we had begun these discussions a year and a half ago, instead of now, if BizTown is not a prerequisite.
And BizTown is not a prerequisite for the program. Parker can speak to that better than me. We don't need a BizTown to have a 3DE program in our school.
BizTown was a part of the vision that Dr. Means had for the Gaines School campus when we were hoping to obtain those SPLOST funds from Clarke Unified Government. So part of that model, if you all recall, was to have an early learning center, to have a BizTown, to do a joint venture, possibly with the Boys and Girls Club. He had spoken to the YMCA, and unfortunately, after we did not obtain those funds from the government, that project pretty much in its entirety was kind of ceased in discussion and exploration.
And so it sounds like you all have spoken with the teachers. The teachers are on board. I know, from being in a high school, I mean, you want to take all the help you can get, basically. I also understand, certainly, it's important for us to understand, like, what are the targeted outcomes and, what are those, whatever unintended consequences and things like that. But I am inclined to support it just from being in schools, and I know that, teachers and counselors need help, and so any support staff that can do that can be useful. On the other hand, I do think, it is important for the board to, just be made aware, stay on top of like the outcomes, what are the target outcomes? What are the direct impact? What is the direct impact that, this is having on our students? I would imagine as a nonprofit being mission driven, that there are some goals going in, right? And, and at some point there's evaluation of whether those goals are met, but.
And that's a perfect segue to the conversation that Dr. Thomas and I are having around our strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
And really, as we think about our strategic plan with increasing graduation rate, which Parky talked about how students in 3D usually outperform their peers on state assessments and graduation. One thing that I would recommend that we include in our strategic plan is the number of pathway completers. And we have students that take pathways, they take 3 courses of pathways, and they never sit for the pathway assessment. Part of that is they sometimes don't know the value of having industry certification and what they can do with that. They can go to college and they can cut hair and pay for college at the same time, right? And I think that having a business academy that really opens their eyes to, I can go straight to work when I graduate from high school, or I can go to college and still work and have industry certification.
Is this 9th through 12th grade? I'm a little bit confused there.
Great question. So we would start a grade level every year. So we would start with 9th grade, and then those 9th graders would go up, and then we would start with another group of 9th graders until we have a full cohort at every grade level.
I have a question that's been sort of brewing. You gave an example of learning math. This feels pretty business heavy, but I noticed on your handout that you talk about science and English and, I don't know, other electives, history. Could you give an example of how you teach science in a 3D?
Sure. I gave an example of another one is Chick-fil-A, and they had a case challenge around, I missed the coleslaw, but they eliminated that from their menu because they were trying to bring the kale, right? So one of the standards was on calories in their biology course. And so students, their case challenge was to come up with a revised menu for Chick-fil-A In their, again, their math, it may have been tied to the financials. In science, it was calculate the caloric content of your recommended menu. So it might be tied to calories. I think there was one about, it may be tied to that specific company, or it might be tied more to a theme. Students learn competencies, so it might be the competency of being resilient. And so they talk about the mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cell, and so they talk about the resilience of the mitochondria. And so it may be direct, again, through those caloric content pieces, or it might be indirect by looking at a scientific concept or scientific method and applying that to the case challenge.
How are these case studies, like how are you checking it off, I guess to say, I don't know. How are you checking it off to see if the students are meeting the Georgia standards? And are there course tests, like how do you measure that as you go?
That's a great question. We use the regular progress indicators. So we have currently unit post assessments for all of our EOCs. Students will still take those EOCs. They will still take those unit post assessments. We in my department are working on interim assessments that we will give 3 times a year, and we may do away with UPAs to reduce some of the testing, because the UPA is every unit, and the interim is 3 times a year. Those students will take the regular interim assessments, as well as if it's an EOC course, they will take an EOC. And then, sorry. It wasn't a question, but then I'm going to come back and answer something you didn't ask. But we would still hold our teachers still accountable around the same teacher evaluation system. We would not be evaluating them based on their implementation of a case study, but really the standards that we have for all teachers as it relates to the teaching and learning, which lends itself to the case study
process. This has no internship component to it, right? So the internship program will still be coming out of the Career Academy, right?
So it does have an internship component.
Yeah,
Yes.
the students do a senior capstone project, and so it may be tied to just a CTE capstone project that they do, or it might be an internship. So most of our students that took part of whatever their senior year is, either 16 cases or freshman through junior year, senior year, they do a senior consultancy, and we work, that's the part of the planning process. We work with the school and with the district to determine the best way to execute on that. For some, it's through work that's learning credit, for some, it's through capstone credit, there's actually other schools that have done AP seminar and research. So it really depends. And sometimes it's done in an internship for that, sometimes it's done more on some serious enterprise. So there's, I guess, flexibility within that space. As far as the concern competition, that's, believe me, we work with every school system, that's our intent. So we collaborate with that school district to say, use Savannah as an example. This is what we're bringing to the table is so far with the, I think, 13 or so different school systems that we're working with, there hasn't been that competition. And so that's, this is, that's the spirit that we want.
And I would add, Mr. Davis, I think a misconception is our high school should be providing internship, I lost the word, opportunities as well. So although we have internship opportunities here, Cedar and Clarke Central should be providing those internship opportunities in addition to that. And one thing that we did not mention is that 3DE student could be a dual enrolled student, that could be a student that is an AP course as well. And when that is not correct. But I would encourage any student that is qualified for dual enrollment should be taking dual enrollment. But that's just my personal.
We do need to visit the Career Academy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gasson, I'll never say never. We'll see.
Thank you all. I promise to try not to make it a practice to have that many presentations at one night. We have one more, and that is Ms. Higginbotham, and that's because it relates to her item that is on the consent agenda.
talk fast, please feel free to ask questions after we've completed. There is a video clip of which we will only view a portion, and that may create some neck strain, so let me know, and we'll try to do that as best we can. Each year in January, we have the opportunity for annual training. It is a requirement for you as the governing board of our Head Start grant. We work together with our policy council to govern our programming and to ensure that we are both planning program fiscal and human resource management to ensure that we have oversight in place and that we have effective management that allows us to have a Head Start program with fiduciary responsibility and high quality services. Additionally, you're required to have training on eligibility, recruitment, selection, enrollment, and attendance. You also serve as recruiters for our program as you're out in the community. You have the opportunity to talk about what an amazing opportunity students have to be a part of our Head Start programming. So hopefully you would have the information available to share with folks in the community that might benefit from the services available. That includes we need to make sure how we collect the information, that we are ensuring that we are treating all our families with dignity and respect, and that we have a program in place for falsification of any information in the application process. The purpose of Head Start is really to promote school readiness, so it's a perfect match for a school district purpose. We want to ensure that it is specifically targeting low-income children, but enhancing cognitive, social, and emotional development, which fits perfectly with Clarke County's strategic plan. We want to make sure we have a strong learning environment and that we have wraparound services that include health, education, nutrition, and social services based on the needs assessments of our families and of our community. Click on that first.
I remember the first book I was here behind, which was great because I couldn't afford any books. It was to sit there behind our little desk and read. I can remember that. It was just such a pivotal point in my life.
Today, we're able to announce we'll have open legal operation this summer, coast to coast. Some 2,000 child development centers. This means that nearly half the preschool children in poverty will get a head start on their future.
Is that the same as that? Yes. From the absolute beginning, Head Start was never intended as just a preschool. The emphasis was on comprehensive services, nutrition, health screening, health care, social services, new careers for the parents with training and income, helping people get out of the cycle of poverty. And that includes energizing, giving people confidence that they can do this, and it's one step at a time.
I was the only one to attend Head Start, and my sister, who was 2 years older than I am, the huge difference it made. We have two people who grew up in the same house in the same circumstances, and I was the person who excelled at school. I am the person who went on to college. I'm the person that started my own business. I truly believe that I had a better opportunity for success than she did because I got to go to Head Start.
These video clip and family connections video clip are both within our Head Start programming, we do have Early Head Start, both the home-based program, which offers pregnancy services through 36 months for 100 students within our community. The standards that they follow are the Georgia Early Learning Development Standards and the Head Start Early Learning Operations or frameworks. They use parents as teachers curriculum in addition to the resources of the JONS. Our Early Head Start program, we have 64 seats for children 8 weeks to 36 months. Within those classrooms, they have 8 students and 2 classified teachers, also following the Georgia Early Learning Development Standards. They utilize the creative curriculum. Our Head Start Head Start program for 3-year-olds, and we have Head Start Pre-K program for our 4 and 5-year-olds, and those are school ages. We have 102 threes and 40 Head Start Pre-K, which is a blended program with our state-funded Pre-K. Threes use creative curriculum, and our Pre-K utilizes Big Day as well as creative curriculum for those resources. To become eligible to be a part of the program, families must first apply for the program and we conduct an in-person interview with each family. We have to verify the information and create eligibility determination. There are age requirements for the program in addition to those eligibility requirements that are income eligible. There are also additional allowances within the program. We serve a certain number of students with special needs, foster families, homeless children, ensuring that we're meeting those additional elements of the program also help us make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community. So what are the highest level needs? That's why we do the community survey, figure out what high level needs we have within our community to ensure that those are the students that are receiving our services. We must keep our records, ensure that throughout their eligibility, and frankly, keep them under lock and key, ensuring that we're keeping our students' information and our families' information private. And that we have policies in place to ensure that we're not violating any kind of eligibility determination. Those families put on the selection criteria for us. One of the things that you'll see this evening and vote on the consent agenda is our selection criteria. It is established based on Clarke County School District, Clarke County's community assessment and the needs within our community. It's a weighted list. There have been no changes. We started a new 5-year grant this past year. And so there have been no changes this year since last year, but it works to ensure that we're serving students with the highest levels of need. To do the services, we receive federal funds. With those federal funds, the bulk of our funding goes toward personnel, and that's because the work is with our students. The most important piece of any classroom is the teacher and the staff that interacts with students each and every day. When you get your monthly reports, the expenditures in the budget come throughout each time what's expended. In addition to our there is a TNTA budget, which is a teaching and technical assistant, which provides professional learning for our teachers and staff. We have the 5-year program goals to close our achievement gap, to ensure that we have positive, goal-oriented relationships with families, helping them develop partnerships and agreements. Preventative health care is a big piece of that, is ensuring that they have a doctor and a dentist or a medical and a dental home so that their children are able to access medical care. And we're ensuring we work with our school nutrition staff to ensure that they have proper nutrition, and we work with parents in parent trainings around nutrition for students. That we put into place those safety practices within our building and encourage parents to put those within their own home, and then the ERSA program, which is the recruitment and enrollment of children that are eligible to ensure that they have a full dosage or that they're able to participate in the program, continuity of service, so that we ensure that they're successful as they enter kindergarten. You may want to glance through these later. It's the metrics. Really is looking at our PIR data, which is our performance year in review. We look at it fiscally to ensure that we are having an impact and that the funds that we are spending, that we are supporting, are ensuring that our students are entering school, school ready or at an advanced rate, that we ensure that we are working to have 100% of our staff with Lynn's office to ensure that we are checking to make sure that we have highly qualified staff in all of our positions, and that we utilize the practices from our policies to ensure that we're hiring. Making sure they have health insurance, that they have home and dental home. They have periodic screenings. We operate and have some of those. We supported a dentist who comes to visit our building, that we're trying to work to make sure we make it not only to support parents in getting that, but also to make it as easy as possible to get that job. One number you'll notice is fairly low is the increase in the number of children who have obtained their exam by the age of 3. That number is for our early Head Start students. It's because there aren't a large number of 3-year-olds in that group. They're 0 to 36 months. Only the oldest children actually are eligible for the 3-year-old dental exam. Another area that we're working toward is to uptake WIC services. That's something that as a county we struggle with, and we're working to help support our early and Head Start parents in taking those services to community kids. The advantage of the program is to ensure the provision of high-quality child education, to make sure that we're supporting the mission and vision of the Clarke County School District, and to provide the services in the area that the community has demonstrated need. The disadvantage or the difficulty we have is simply that we don't have enough seats to serve all of the students that qualify and would benefit from the program. As a part of our overarching structure, as the Board of Education, you are our governing body. Our executive director is the interim superintendent. I serve as the director of Head Start, Early Head Start, as the designated to the interim superintendent, and then our staff. In addition, you'll notice the Head Start Policy Council provides information, guidance, and works with our program, but also provides information to the Board of Education so that you have the information you need to help support us in making the decisions that we need to make sure that we're using fiscal responsibility, but also reading through and approving grants as we apply, and ensuring that if we have a new grant or if we have a change to a rate that we need to, that you as a board approve that action. Your role specifically is a fiduciary oversight, human resources oversight. Our department oversees the actions day to day, but you also are part of our community engagement. If you have time or are interested, you can click through any of the links that will take you directly to the Head Start program standards regarding programs governance. It essentially states that you have the legal responsibility for ensuring that the grant activities respond to regulations, terms, and conditions of the grant, and the fiscal responsibility for ensuring that the funds are used prudently and according to the regulations. Human resources management, we utilize personnel policies of Clarke County School District, program management and quality improvement, we respond to engage in all of the 5-year program goals. And we make sure that we're working with families toward outcome goals, but we're also working with our teachers. So we look. That's our governance and management responsibility. It essentially is an intersecting Venn diagram in which the board's responsibilities intersect with the policy council's responsibilities, which also intersect with the staff responsibilities. And we ensure that between that is how we as a board, a policy council, and staff support students and families in ensuring to meet those school readiness goals. We are subject to federal and state monitoring. We've had the classroom assessments, environmental, fiscal, the A133 audit, our comprehensive services, as well as the leadership government management systems, the advanced ed early learning, and focus area 1, and have ensured through all of those monitoring, the last one being focus area 1, in which several of you had the opportunity to participate when we come through with no deficiencies and no findings. We have an upcoming monitoring which will likely occur early next school year, which is our focus area 2, where they will be on site and enjoy the opportunity to visit our classrooms, teachers, and have interviews with board members. Our next steps really are the year-round implementation, our ongoing monitoring, annual training in January. February, we'll begin compiling the new community assessment and audit. In March, we will do self-assessment from that data and begin our strategic planning retreat. You are also welcome to attend. Our parent committee will be present, as will our policy council members. And community members that support the work we do. The policy council will approve the community assessment and the grant reapplication, and in May we will return to ask you all to approve our reapplication. Our application, initial application is for 5 years. However, each year we need to reapply. I just learned this this week. We are one of 5 programs in the state of Georgia that has not had to compete for our grant. So every 5 years, if you have any snaps to Clarke County School District and our oversight, I was not aware that there was that need. And that's where we kind of take pride in that monitoring and how well we've done. I often tell my staff, just do what you do and do it well, and we will be just fine every time they come through. But part of that is your oversight and your governance, the programs and policies that Clarke County School District and the Board of Education has in place that help support the work we do to ensure that we're meeting all of the requirements, not just of our grant, but also doing that which is best for kids. In June the 1st, we send in our application. Are there any questions you have? I went through that quickly in light of the time and in knowing that you have access to the PowerPoint, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions. Yes, ma'am.
I think we talked about this in the fall, maybe at some point. You mentioned a few slides back that we are not meeting the full need of the community, and you suggested that's a facilities problem more than anything, or is it, what would it take to fulfill the need?
More than that. We are required to have a wait list, so the fact that the wait list exists is not, we have to demonstrate that a seat is open, and it opens for lots of reasons. A parent is no longer able to come, they go to the county, the child grows, but that wait list is ranked ordered, and so it's 5 points on the selection criteria. We have, as a
something on the property committee.
Yes, ma'am. And data shows us the impact that the program has for our students, and so again, we're investing in the future. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Karen, I thought we did apply for an expansion of the program and
Did, but if you'll remember when we applied the last time it was open and available, and I promise you we will apply again when it reopens. We were declined in part because of the lack of space to have our students that we were going to have to do in our program.
what were some of the other reasons that we did it? Or was that the main reason? That was the main reason?
At that time, to be completely transparent, the hurricane had just leveled Florida, and all of the expansion grants went to, for our particular area, the state region, into the state of Florida to help rebuild some of the programs in the state and in the state. So while that was the part that was given to us, let's know that part of that had to do with just those programs needing the resources. But we will apply for the capacity expansion if that's an opportunity, and it's not an opportunity every single year. But we definitely have the need in our county.
So just one follow-up. So if we get do you have to have the space before you get the grant? Because it seems like that's, school systems cannot just build.
But it clearly demonstrates the community's commitment to the program. And that, as a program, the federal government is giving us 80%. We are responsible as a community for the other 20%. So that's our part to put in, is to ensure that we have a building facilities, and that has been a piece of commitment that Clarke County has made. Any other questions?
So do we have any plans on the table currently for expanding our space? I would follow up to what Tish said.
The facilities committee is, that plan presentation is the discussion that has been had. What we continue is as that rolls out and evolves and changes, I would like to do that what we're going to continue to do with that expansion.
Yeah. And so, for example, West Broad.
It has been a discussion for West Broad and for the east side, Gaines location.
Just making sure that.
Neither of those have changed.
Okay.
Nor have either of them been started movement.
Okay, one thing I do want to point out in terms of the district is that the requirements, and you and I have talked about this many times, the requirements for the federal Head Start, early Head Start, in terms of facilities, is totally different than the state for pre-K. So people may think that, little desk for little desk and little toilets for little toilets, but there are real differences. So if we construct new space, we have to build it according to the purpose of it. You don't want to build a pre-K building and then say, oh, let's just convert it to Head Start, early Head Start.
It's hard to retrofit a high school to fit
Even in terms of preschool.
have a difference.
Right.
So we did have to go back in and add additional plumbing, additional sinks and things to meet the requirements for students. And Head Start, and part of that is learning, but they're learning to wash their hands, and there has to be a student size tools and the right spaces for those to brush their teeth. That has to be available and not the same spaces for us to wash my hands. Other questions? Please. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
The longest.
Yes. So moving forward with, we still have, looks like policy. So move forward with that. Item 6,
Right. We have two policies to go out for public comment to approve it. The first one is BCBG voting method. The only change, it's a revision, but the only change in it is a strike through on the beginning of the first sentence of the second paragraph. And it strikes through the although a member of the board may refrain from voting, because that's not what we're really encouraging here. The sentence actually says board members are under strong obligation to vote on all motions. So the history behind this is where we had some confusion about voting in terms of yes, no, or aye, nay, and abstain. And so BCBG and BC, which I'll get to in a moment, are kind of coupled in this sense. So this just strongly encourages board members to either vote yes, no, or abstain. And the abstention is the same wording as before. A board member should abstain from voting only when he or she has a conflict of interest between his or her own interests and those of the district. So the only strike through is the beginning of the second sentence. The policy committee chewed on this one for a while and thought that was the right approach, as I think will be a little more obvious when we look at BC.
Any questions for policy BCBG?
And then on to BC, this clears up a confusion that we had at a previous board meeting that did not align with best practices of Robert's rules. And so in policy BC, board meetings, we can scroll down to meeting procedures. What we had was the votes of a majority of the members present shall be necessary for the transaction of business. And so what we're proposing changing that to is the votes of a majority of the quorum, excluding abstentions. So the point is that an abstention would not count against a vote. And so you might remember we had an awkward circumstance coming up. So we're trying to streamline this to make better sense of it. So one can abstain without affecting the outcome of the vote.
Any questions for?
Yeah, I'm seeing what you said again in terms of the abstention.
Yeah, no, it's right here. So the votes of a majority of the quorum, that you have to have a quorum to have a meeting, right? It says the sentence before, 5 members of the Board of Education shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. And then the next sentence, the votes of a majority of the quorum, excluding abstentions, shall be necessary for the transaction of any business.
Abstention is always been viewed as a vote. I know.
Robert Rules says silent all abstentions don't count.
Say that again.
If you don't carve it out, you're right, Rick. I don't agree anymore. Robert Rules says abstentions don't count. It's not part of it. But we've had a policy that do count. So this change will put it back in the system before Robert Rules says.
Right, so next week, if they will go out for 4 weeks from public comment. And moving on to policies to be adopted or rescinded. 7.1, policy JS, student fees, fines, and charges. That has gone out and has come back. Have we received any comments on this one? Okay. So let's see that there's some changes that are displayed up there. And this wording, refresh my memory.
The reg and the policy, there's no need for a reg, send it next one, the reg, and this clarifies, when in the several instances, school districts are treated for campus.
And so this is coupled with 7.2, which is the rescinding of the regulation and putting the information that was in the regulation into the policy.
Any questions? Further discussion? Thank you. Item number 8, we have our contract list. Well, 8.1 is the contract list. And then 8.2 is our January personnel list. That we'll take action on next week.
Yeah.
Dr. Thomas?
Excited about that list.
I clicked it. Oh my God, snowball. Here comes the fire trucks.
Dr. Thomas, are we still working on the layout of the central office staff and everything, so maybe next week? Because that was, it was in this context that I asked about the organization.
Organization chart, Mrs. and she can send it to you right now.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Give her 1 second.
Thank you. Oh, I did request it January 7th.
Yeah, I think with the transition, yeah, we.
You asked for it on what day did you say? January 7th? Yeah, so that was this, yeah, it was this week, but she stopped and worked to get it.
I don't mind waiting 2 weeks.
Or 3 weeks. Did you need it for the personnel, I'm sorry, did you need it for the personnel recommendation?
No.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll, just in the process of transition, we'll, get into the groove. I know previously we had days of about 2 weeks before, but all of this has been a break and a whole lot of other things fill in the blank, so. Any other questions or any questions about 8.1 or 8.2?
I see that there's a new position in the central office, that's community support specialist. I guess I just wanted some clarity on what the new position is.
Okay.
That's
Let's see.
I'm sorry.
I see we have a new position called community support specialist in the central office. I was just interested in what that is.
Yes, and actually, I had a discussion that really should be called community engagement specialist. That was a position that has been there since August or before with Claire Suggs in her department, because Claire's position was the chief of community engagement and strategic partnerships, and she spent the majority of her time dealing with the needs of LSGTs and our innovation grants and funding. Excuse me, Mr. Harris, Lawrence Harris, is doing that now as an executive director, but this position is that community engagement portion. And I think Claire talked about that a while back, I know Dr. Means mentioned it, to have someone designated to work with our community organizations, the Adopt a Schools program, other strategic partners to come in and help with advancing our academic and social emotional needs of the school, but it was a person who will be able to really work in the community. Examples are working with barbershops to see if we can set up reading stations there, or working with restaurants to see if they will pass out literature for our schools. So that position has been there since Claire was there, but we decided to wait and fill that after Claire's position was filled. She was about to start interviewing before she left. And then she didn't want to interview and not be there to supervise, so we waited to hire Lawrence, and have now moved forward with that position.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's funded out of charter funds.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, this was a part of the budget that we.
Yeah, it's been budgeted all year long, it's just Claire's leaving was unexpected, and she canceled those interviews. They were scheduled the week that she was going to depart. Yes.
Other questions? Okay. Consent agenda. All right.
Just for the sake of time, I would suggest that we just kind of pull off the ones that we're feeling comfortable with and not really discuss them, because I do have a couple that I have questions about, but I'll wait until next week.
Okay, so with 9.1, or is that staying or leaving? 9.2, right? 9.3,
Consent.
9.4,
I think we're going to take, I'd like to see it open vote.
okay, okay, so take that on. Okay, 9.5,
Non-consent.
take it on?
Take it off. Take it off.
Okay, 9.6. All right, 0.7. 8. Okay, what about 9.9? 9.10,
Consent.
9.11.
I wouldn't. Hold on. Yeah, I want a separate discussion.
On which one? 11?
No, 9,
11.
no, 9, 11, 9, 9, 10. That's good.
10 or 11?
10,
The devices?
yeah. Just to revisit that in the textbooks.
Okay, so we're pulling off 9, 10, and 9, 11. Is that correct?
9, 11, I'm fine with.
Okay, keep 9, 11 on consent. We're pulling 10 off. Okay, and 9, 12. Okay, pull off consent. And I want to encourage us, if we know what our questions are, I do know when we get here next week, we have a lot of questions as we go along. But if you already have specific questions, please send those in to Dr. Thomas so that we can make the most of our time together.
Okay, which one is not consent? Can you give us a review? Not consent.
What I have is 9.4, 9.5, 9.10, and 9.12. That's what I have.
Yes. We have answers to some of your questions already regarding, Mr. Davis, regarding 9.5.
All right. Oh.
I don't know where else to say, but I just wanted to say, I won't be here at next Thursday's meeting. I'll be in Boston for the annual meeting of the American Meteorological Society, so apologies, but I can't be helped.
Thank you for sharing that. I know you shared that with us before. I also will be, I will be here, but I won't be here until probably about 45 minutes after the meeting. So I think I've shared that, with the board, but just as a reminder. And so I'll speak with Ms. Davis a little bit more as far as how we can, she can facilitate the meeting and we'll make a smooth transition.
We have next week, is that next week we have our speakers? Regarding the district.
We have the speakers, and then we also have the selection of the speaker, selection of officers, and also selection of district.
Those speakers are they have to present.
They have, that's right, so they would need to sign up to speak.
So,
Dr. Maddox, and then,
yeah, I'm concerned about how much voting we do when we're down to 6 members. So I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like.
Be down to 7. is about the time that we go through regular speakers in support of our District 2 candidates, and then the District 2 candidates themselves also have to speak, if I'm correct.
And we have regular comments too.
And right, in the regular comments, then as optimistic as I would like to be, I did not expect that we will be finished in 45 minutes. I appreciate your optimism. I will count on you to help facilitate that.
Yeah, so we'll be down one, but,
Yes,
I think
that will be fine.
Are we ready for number 10?
Dr. Bennett.
I just want us to acknowledge, Dr. Nas, I know it's been a while back, but I don't think we ever acknowledged your award. I like to celebrate successes, because when I get something, y'all better right now. But we have to share it with us what it was. It's been a while back, but I think we should acknowledge it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll be in Boston. I'm getting the Edward Lorenz Award for Teaching Excellence in Meteorology, being made a fellow of the American Meteorological Society.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for that, Dr. Maddox. Okay, we are at the place in our agenda where we're at executive session, okay? So I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
All right, okay. So no conversation, all in favor? Okay.
Is that unanimous for executive session?
Yes. And that was at 9:20.